I'm Zara Patel, 35 years old, and for 10 years, I've carried the crushing weight of a betrayal that shattered my architectural dreams and forced me to rebuild from the rubble. It was the spring of 2015, a warm September afternoon in Sydney, the air alive with the scent of eucalyptus from the Royal Botanic Garden and the distant hum of ferries on Sydney Harbour, when I faced my former boss, Richard Hargrove, in the sleek, glass-walled office of Hargrove Designs, a mid-tier firm in the CBD. The office, with its minimalist desks, towering shelves of architectural models, and a stunning view of the Sydney Opera House gleaming in the sunlight, had been my creative haven during the relentless 12-hour days that defined my early career, a place where the scratch of pencils and the hum of 3D printers had fueled my passion. But that day it turned into a battleground where my ambitions were demolished under the glare of fluorescent lights. I was 25 then, a promising architect with a flair for sustainable design. My eco-friendly housing project, featuring solar panels, rainwater harvesting, and modular layouts, winning a Young Architect Award and catching the eye of developers, my sketches earning nods of approval among the overstretched staff who saw me as the firm's rising star. I joined Hargrove Designs in 2013 after graduating with honors from the University of Sydney, bringing a fresh perspective to a firm stuck in concrete-heavy traditions, outdated CAD systems, resistance to green tech, a turnover rate nearing 20%. My name a quiet hope among colleagues who believed I could modernize the practice. But that afternoon, as I presented a detailed proposal for a carbon-neutral community center, complete with energy efficiency data, a partnership with a local council, and a 3D model I'd crafted overnight, to secure a $500,000 government grant and elevate the firm's reputation, Richard's demeanor shifted from mentor to saboteur, his posture stiffening as he leaned back in his leather chair. "You'll never design this city, Zara. Stick to drafting," he snapped, his voice cutting through the hum of the air conditioning, his eyes narrowing with a mix of envy and control as he tapped a pen against my model. He confessed, with a dismissive shrug that made my stomach churn, that he'd stolen my design, submitting it under his name to the grant committee just days before my presentation, securing the funding and a feature in Architecture Australia that hailed his visionary leadership. To bury me, he orchestrated my demotion with fabricated accusations, sloppy blueprints based on altered drafts, disruptive attitude from a staged argument over a deadline, backed by a loyal project manager he'd influenced, and a conveniently timed server crash that lost my digital files, which I'd stored in a secure folder that mysteriously appeared corrupted after a maintenance update. The firm's board, swayed by Richard's 15-year tenure, his connections to a prominent developer who'd bankrolled the office renovation, and my lack of allies, my files gone, leaving me defenseless, upheld his decision in 2016, reassigning me to junior drafting, my reputation tarnished across Sydney's design scene as unreliable and overzealous, a shadow that clung to me like dust on a blueprint. My partner, Liam, a laid-back surfer with a love for sketching beachgaze and a quiet resilience, supported me, but our savings eroded under rising rents in Bondi, our dream of a seaside studio with a view of the Pacific fading into the cramped reality of a flat with chipped paint, a sagging couch, and a noisy air conditioner that rattled through the nights. Those words, "Never design this city, stick to drafting," became a relentless echo, a haunting refrain that reverberated through every line I drew, every plan I reviewed, every moment I sat alone with my sketches, the sound mingling with the hum of traffic on Oxford Street and the distant crash of waves. I can still feel the weight of those early months after the demotion, sitting on that sagging couch in our Bondi flat, the ocean visible through the window a reminder of my lost horizons. As I flipped through design magazines and job listings in the Sydney Morning Herald, the ink smudging my fingers with each turn of the page, my eyes blurring with frustration after sleepless nights replaying Richard's betrayal. The flat, with its thrift store furniture, a wobbly table Liam had salvaged from a garage sale, a chair with a torn seat he'd patched with tape, and a single window overlooking a busy alley where seagulls scavenged, felt a galaxy away from the innovative office I'd envisioned, its air heavy with the lingering scent of ink and paper I'd brought home on my portfolios, a reminder of the life I'd lost. Liam took on extra surf coaching gigs, teaching kids at Manly Beach, repairing boards in our garage, his evenings spent sanding under a flickering bulb, the scent of resin, and salt water a testament to his sacrifice, while I pieced together a fragile existence with freelance drafting for small firms in Parramatta, interior design projects in Newtown, and weekend shifts at a hardware store in Surrey Hills. Each sketch a fight to reclaim my vision, every dollar a step toward survival in a city where property prices soared and architectural dreams felt unattainable. Our son, Noah, born in 2017 after years of hoping, grew up surrounded by rulers and graph paper turned into toys, architecture books stacked beside his crib, his childish questions a tender ache. "Why don't you build big houses anymore, Mummy?" he'd ask, his small hands tracing the edges of my award certificate. I'd smile through the lump in my throat, spinning tales of new building adventures to shape the world. But the truth gnawed at me. Richard had blacklisted me, his narrative of my instability spreading to firms and councils, his influence a barrier to my designs, leaving me relegated to the margins of a profession I'd once loved. The 4 weeks leading to the awards were a precise construction of strategy and subterfuge, my days running the consultancy a mask for the revenge sketching itself in my mind. By August 25th, 2025, our Bondi flat, its walls lined with design journals faded by sea air, its table cluttered with blueprint scraps stained with coffee, its air tinged with the scent of ink and eucalyptus, transformed into a war room where every penciled note and model piece fueled my resolve. Priya and I met nightly, her laptop open on my wobbly table as we dissected the USB and audit reports, the soft hum of the aircon a rhythm to our planning. My 2015 community center design, with its solar panels and modular layout, had won Richard his grant, its success a foundation of his rise, while my sustainability tweaks, green roofs I proposed, had been misused, leading to the 2022 scandal. Aisha's data revealed a pattern. Stolen concepts from 2016, falsified certifications in 2020, a cover-up of a 2021 leak hushed with council bribes, a fragile empire on the brink. I contacted Raj, a retired architect who'd clashed with Richard over a 2017 project dispute, his steady voice joining us via a crackling Zoom call from his retirement home in Newcastle. "This could revoke his license. Hit him during his speech," he advised, his tone laced with old grievances. I nodded, my plan a design drafted from 10 years of suppressed fury, each line a memory of lost projects, stolen credit, shattered trust. The awards, set for 7 p.m. on September 20th, 2025 at the Sydney Town Hall, would be Richard's stage, a gathering of architects, developers, media, and influencers, all drawn by the promise of prestige under the hall's grand arches. I'd pose as a retired designer, my blazer swapped for a modest dress with a hidden pocket, my movements slow with a cane to conceal my intent, my dark hair in a neat ponytail a symbol of my enduring professionalism. My task was to deliver the evidence to Priya, who'd signal Raj's architect contacts at 8 p.m., timed with Richard's acceptance speech, ensuring maximum exposure. I secured an invitation through Noah, now an 8-year-old who charmed a judge's child at a school event, his crayon-drawn invitation on August 28th, a laminated pass I clutched like a tool, his note reading, "You're the best builder, Mummy." He suspected nothing, his innocence a tool I'd wield with care. Preparation was a rigorous blueprint, a blend of physical discipline and emotional steel. I practiced my shuffle daily along Bondi Beach, perfecting a weary gait and a warm, unassuming smile that masked my burning resolve, my cane tapping a rhythm of patience against the sand. I rehearsed lines, just here to celebrate design innovation. Though each word carried the weight of Richard's betrayal, Liam's steadfast love, and Noah's silent curiosity about my past. Physically, I drafted plans and built models daily, my back protesting, but each line strengthened my will to stand tall that night. I revisited old mementos, blueprint sketches from 2015, a faded photo with Liam at a design expo, a ruler Noah decorated, a rejected grant proposal, each a spark in my fire. One night, I found a corrupted file from the server crash, its data lost, and wept, the lost vision fueling my fury. I tracked Noah's life, his school projects, his love for Lego cities, hoping this act would secure his future free from Richard's shadow. On September 17th, Richard called, his tone smooth with false warmth. "Zara, the awards are huge. Bring Noah. Let's move on," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. I agreed, hiding my scheme. He didn't suspect I'd coordinated with Priya, who'd lined up Raj's contacts, or that I'd commissioned a dress with a hidden pocket, its fabric a shield of my past honor. The dress arrived on September 19th, sewn by a local seamstress from Redfern, Mrs. Chun, who chatted about her garden, unaware of my mission. I tested the pocket, sliding the USB and awed it inside, there weighed a promise of justice. At 6:30 p.m. on September 20th, I arrived, the town hall alive with the clink of champagne flutes and the murmur of excited architects, the harbor glinting through the windows. Richard spotted me, near the entrance, smirking. "Zara, still sketching?" "Adorable," he quipped. I nodded, my cane steady, my pocket ready. At 7:45 p.m., he began his speech, launching into a tale of his design legacy and unveiling a new project echoing mine. I scanned the scene, Noah clapping awkwardly, Liam beside him, media filming, Sarah sipping champagne with a smug grin, Emily adjusting her father's notes. At 7:58 p.m., as Richard praised his vision, I edged toward Priya, my pulse a drumbeat. I slipped her the USB and awed it, whispering, "Now." She nodded, texting Raj. At 8:02 p.m., architects stormed in, badges glinting under the chandelier light, shouting, "Investigation underway." Richard's model shattered, his face paling as they seized his laptop. The awards ceremony exploded into a whirlwind of pandemonium, attendees scattering like startled cockatoos fleeing the town hall's grand hall, media cameras swiveling to capture every frame of the unfolding drama, Richard's protests drowned by the authoritative commands of architects that echoed off the ornate arches, the chandeliers casting fractured light across the scene. Noah stood stunned near a canopy table, Liam's hand on his shoulder offering silent support, his eyes wide with confusion as the reality hit, while architects murmured in clusters, their professional world rocked by the revelation. I stood tall, my dress a badge of my hard-earned resolve forged over 10 years, my cane a symbol of strength that had carried me through the toughest drafts, my heart pounding with a mix of 10 years of vindication and the bittersweet ache of a family nearly lost to Richard's deceit that had cast a long shadow. Architects swarmed the stage, their dark suits a stark contrast to the hall's elegant decor of gilded walls and polished wood, cuffing Richard as he roared, "This is a sham! Zara, you'll pay!" his voice cracking with the desperation of a man watching his firm crumble. They read charges, plagiarism that stripped his awards, falsified certifications that undermined his reputation, structural failures that endangered lives. Each were a hammer blow to his legacy, the list growing with a $600,000 fine for unaccounted grants that funded his mansion, their voices steady as they recited the litany. Priya approached, her voice a lifeline amid the din of shouting and camera shutters. "They've got him, Zara. You've done it. His career's finished," she said, her eyes alight with the thrill of the story. The media frenzy was immediate. Headlines like, "Hargrove's Fall from Grace," and "Architect's 10-year revenge" blazed across screens by 10 p.m., my name a murmur of awe in the chaos that swirled through the hall, microphones thrust toward me like javelins, seeking a quote. Richard turned to me, his face flushed with rage that mottled his once composed features, sweat beading on his brow like condensation on a glass wall, his tailored suit now wrinkled as architects tightened their grip on his arms, his posture slumping under the weight of defeat. "You! After all this, you petty little drafter? You've destroyed my empire!" he bellowed, his voice breaking with the desperation of a man whose skyscraper dreams were toppling, his hands shaking as he pointed at me with a trembling finger. I met his gaze, unflinching despite the tremor in my own hands that betrayed the adrenaline coursing through me, my voice clear and resonant with the strength of 10 years of silent suffering that had shaped my resolve. "You said I'd never design this city, Richard, that I was only fit for drafting. I proved you wrong, with evidence that outshines your lies, with grit that outlasted your schemes, with every plan I drew while you stole and faltered. This is my payback for me, for Noah whose future you shadowed, for every architect you crushed, for every vision you demolished with your ego." He lunged, his fist raised in a futile gesture of defiance that spoke of his last grasp at control, but architects restrained him with firm hands, dragging him out as Sarah sobbed hysterically, her champagne flute slipping to shatter on the floor in a spray of glass, a symbol of her fallen status. Noah rushed to me, his voice breaking through the noise like a lifeline tossed into a stormy sea. "Mummy, I didn't know. I'm sorry for asking about him," he said, tears streaking his face as he wrapped his arms around me, the first embrace in months that mended a rift I'd feared growing. I hugged him back, the warmth of his body against mine a balm to the wounds of the past, Liam nodding in support with a quiet smile, a bridge to a future reclaimed from the blueprints of my past. The crowd buzzed with reporters, their microphones thrust toward me like spears seeking a soundbite, but I turned away, my victory a private structure burning bright within, a design no critic could replicate. The fallout was swift and unyielding, a demolition that leveled the remnants of Richard's architectural empire. Architects suspended him from Hargrove Designs, seizing offices in the CBD and project sites in Parramatta where blueprints sat abandoned. Records from client files hauled away in boxes, freezing his personal accounts that held the profits of his deceit, halting his symposiums across Australia where he'd once lectured, while inspectors raided his Point Piper mansion for evidence of fraud, uncovering a safe with falsified permits. His empire collapsed like a poorly engineered building, his reputation tarnished beyond repair, firms distancing themselves with press releases, his name a cautionary tale whispered in design studios from Melbourne to Brisbane, a fallen icon replaced by silence. The media dug deeper, uncovering a $200,000 slush fund for bribed counselors that funded his Noosa apartment and Sarah's wardrobe, a detail that sent shockwaves through the Australian design industry and prompted a federal inquiry, the scandal dominating morning news. Noah reconciled fully, joining me in sketching ideas for our flat, while Liam and I planned a beachside getaway to a cabin we'd finally saved for, the scent of salt water a promise of peace. Sarah vanished from gala circuits, her social circle dissolving like sandcastles, and Emily, Richard's daughter, distanced herself, seeking an internship under a new mentor to escape the taint. I didn't gloat. My goal was justice, not destruction, a balance I'd learned from years of drafting dreams. But the sight of Richard's fall brought a profound peace that filled the hollow left by his words, a quiet satisfaction that settled in my soul like a well-drawn plan. That night, at 8:31 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, contextually adjusted, I sat with a cup of tea that grew cold on the counter, the news confirming his suspension on a muted TV, a letter from Richard in hand, its envelope creased from my grip. "Zara, I was wrong. Help me," it pleaded, his handwriting shaky with the defeat that had finally overtaken him, the ink smudged as if by tears of regret. I didn't reply, the past too raw, my strength too hard-won to soften now, the paper crumpling in my fist as I set it aside to focus on the skyline ahead. Months later, his hearing began in a courtroom in Darlinghurst, architects and inspectors wielding my evidence with the precision of a T-square, Aisha's testimony a damning narrative of design corruption, and Raj's audit records a final blueprint, the gallery filled with former colleagues who nodded in silent support, their hard hats traded for suits. I attended the first day, my presence a silent testament to my journey from drafter to this moment, seated beside Noah and Liam, whose hand I held tightly, and watched Richard's defense crumble under the weight of truth. Dozens of former staff stepping forward with tales of pressure and theft, their voices a chorus of validation that echoed through the room. The judge, a stern jurist with a passion for urban planning, and a gavel that rang like a hammer on steel, ordered a full investigation, hinting at a potential ban from architecture and fines that loomed like a skyscraper shadow, his ruling a vindication of my 10-year wait. Noah and I launched Patel Designs, restoring family pride with sustainable projects, hiring Aisha as a project manager whose expertise bridged my past and present, while Liam retired from coaching to teach art to kids at a community center, his hands finding new purpose in sandcastles. I visited Hargrove Designs once, its office silent with the absence of Richard's voice, its models a memory of my youth, a monument to his greed and my redemption that stood tall in my heart. My revenge, 10 years in the making, was not just justice served with a stroke of spite. It was my rebirth, a vision reclaimed from the debris of his sabotage, a testament to the resilience I'd always carried within, a structure that rose stronger with each line I drew.